Probably the most dramatic example of nuclear power is nuclear bombs. This picture, I believe, is of the Trinity Gadget explosion, the very first nuclear explosion that we've ever made. The ability to make such a chain reaction relies on the fact that in the fissioning events, we get more neutrons out than we put in. So in a fission like this, we start with one neutron, which causes one uranium-235 to split up, to fission. But it gives off two more neutrons. Each of those neutrons can then go and cause another uranium to fission. So we start with one neutron, which fissions a uranium. That makes the next two uraniums fission, which makes four more fission. And in successive generations, we get exponentially more and more fissions. In the case of a bomb, we do this in a runaway manner. We have such a large chunk of fissile material that this reaction just keeps proceeding until the neutrons either run out of things to fission or there's so much energy and the material is moving away so fast that it stops. As you can see, the last generation has more fissions than all of the previous generations before. So most of the energy in a nuclear bomb comes from the last few generations of fissions that happen. And typically in a nuclear bomb, not all of the fissions, all of the available fissions actually happen. In fact, in a bomb like the one dropped on Hiroshima, there was actually enough leftover uranium that you could make a new bomb out of it. You couldn't gather it, but it could if there's enough there. If we want a sustained nuclear reaction like we would use in a reactor for generating electrical power, we would want on average only one of these neutrons to go on and cause another fission. In other words, we would want one of them to disappear and one to make another fission so that we have a self-sustaining reaction. Each one generates another one, but we don't have an increasing reaction. Now, in order to sustain a chain reaction like this, whether it's an explosive one where the number of reactions increases, or just a sustained continuous power one where the number of reactions stays constant, we need to solve three problems with the neutrons. The first is the neutron leakage problem. That's simply these neutrons are moving fast, and if I have some setup of fissile material, then one of these neutrons can easily leave the situation. The good news here is that leakage only occurs at the surface, whereas neutrons are produced throughout the system. So what we do in a nuclear reactor is we simply make the nuclear core big. That way, there's relatively few surface neutrons that escape, and most of the neutrons are near the center, where they can go on to interact more. The next problem is the neutron energy problem. Neutrons that are produced in the reaction come out with a lot of energy. We want to use that energy to heat up water and power a turbine, but also those high energy neutrons aren't very effective at being caught by and splitting the uranium-235. So we need something to slow down the neutrons. What we do is in a reactor, along with the fuel rods, so we have fuel, we surround it with something else. In North America, mostly water. Water has a lot of hydrogen, which contains protons, right? The nucleus of a hydrogen is a proton. And if the neutron slams into the proton, if it hits it head on, the proton being almost the same mass, takes off with exactly the neutron's speed and energy, and the neutron comes to rest. Most collisions aren't exactly head on, but in general, hitting something of about the same mass is very effective at slowing down the neutrons. The third problem is the neutron capture problem. Between the energies where the neutrons are released in a fission event and the energy where they're effective at causing new fission events, we have an energy where the neutrons like to get captured by uranium. So you have uranium-238 plus a neutron, and that goes to uranium-239, which will eventually become plutonium, but it basically takes it out of the fuel cycle that you're working with. We don't want this to happen. And that's why we separate the fuel uranium here and the moderator. The idea is that a neutron formed in these uranium rods will come out in the moderator, and while it's moving around inside the water, it'll lose its energy and get down to be a thermal neutron. And then thermal neutrons will wander back inside the fuel rods and cause new fissions. But hopefully they will be out here in the water while they're going through that energy transition from the energy that's produced to the energy that causes fission through the energy where we have neutron capture by uranium-238.